nilqakom għal din Newsbook Q&A miegħi għandek Chris Peregin, strateġista tal-PN. Christian huwa persuna li kien imexxi l-LovinMalta u kien hemm ħafna reazzjonijiet kif mar mal-Partit Nazzjonali sa aħna għandna intervista miegħu. Kif inti, Christian, how are you? All right?
Okay, thank you very
everything good? So, mela, anħalla tankun naqra...
Bħalna tal-Lovin Daily.
Bħal kif kont tal-Lovin
Ekku.
All right, so, one of the issues, Christian, that people have been asking about is your pay. Now, are you getting 65,000
Look, I have a commitment not to sort of declare how much I'm being paid, because the party doesn't have, the party has a policy of not declaring how much people get paid. I mean, it's not taxpayer money, it's commercial sensitivity.
It's people's money, but...
I think I'm being paid a relatively competitive price for my skill set and experience. It's obviously a difficult situation because it's tied to the election, so it all depends on when the election is called. It's a very unstable job in that sense, so I can't be taking loans or anything like that. So,
but if it's about skill set, then you're telling me that the leader of the opposition's skill set is a very low skill set, because what he gets is the equivalent of a ministerial wage. I mean,
I've often spoken about
if you're working in a corporation where it's a commercial company which has a turnover of millions, etc. Now the concept of having a particular wage is commensurate with the company's profits and whatever turnover. The situation in the Nationalist Party is a party which has, we don't know exactly, but in the region of 20 million euros in debt, and this prodigal son comes over to the Nationalist Party and gets 65k. I would find it. I would if I was in the Nationalist Party, I would find it quite disturbing.
I think the Nationalist Party has a lot of assets, both in terms of property and in terms of people. I think it's interesting that we don't ask these questions about the Labour Party. I think it's interesting that we accept that we don't get this information from public companies that are paid by taxpayer money anyway. And I think that I've long spoken about the need to improve salaries for politicians, because it's a big deal when you get into politics and suddenly you're under immense scrutiny, by tax authorities, I mean, Maltese people are starting to experience this even without getting into politics now, because of Manival and FATF, we're starting to experience the kind of scrutiny that everybody, the whole country is now under, because of the actions of a few people who are protected and are still being protected. And I think that's the important question, not how much someone is getting paid to do a job.
But you have made that question.
Pardon?
You made that question to the leader of the opposition. When you interviewed him, I'm going to quote him Maltese, you said, kif ħadd issigura li n-nies fuq it-tim tiegħek ħajkunu qed jaħdmu għall-ġid tal-pajjiż u mhux ħajkunu qed jaħdmu għal butom?
What's the connection?
The connection is that you're talking
As
about
in if
people
the accusation
need to sacrifice themselves, notwithstanding the court, they should sacrifice themselves instead of expecting to.
I think the accusation that I would be doing this for money is ridiculous, right? Because I've had to sell my business at a time, a very profitable business and very successful business, at a time when I'm forcing a sale so I've lost all negotiation power, so to speak. And I have not even a year to do a job. So even if my salary is 65k as it's being claimed, it cannot even be 65k because it's not even a year.
Okay. Mela, well, that doesn't sound very positive.
In what sense?
Because you're saying that, so your job is simply to take the Nationalist Party to the election and that's it, and then you're out of it.
The contract I've signed is for that. Now I hope to be able to add enough value to one, justify whatever it is I'm being paid, and justify it in a big way. And I think I should be judged based on my performance, not based on how much I'm being paid. And I hope to add enough value that I'm seen as an asset to continue.
Okay.
But my commitment and the commitment of the party is for me to work until the general election. So it's not even a year. So it could be a few thousand euros if the it's not about money, Andrew. I think you know that about me. I wouldn't be doing this if it was for money.
Okay. The issue about the court case that was filed by LovinMalta, this is a big issue that people are throwing at you, that people are asking about, and they are asking, I mean, how come now Peregin has changed his position? Now does he want the Nationalist Party media to close down? And obviously that wasn't the issue. The main issue was that he wanted balance within the party media. First of all, how will you be ensuring that there's balance? Because you've been in this role for a couple of weeks, and it's the same type of news I'm listening to, it's the same political programs I'm listening to. They are completely lopsided, making Malta look as if it's the at the tip of the world about to fall through. So first of all that, and second, do you have regrets with the issue that we had even discussed on the station 103?
So first of all, the accusation used to be that I'm doing this court case because I want to eliminate competition. I think first and foremost, I've put my money where my mouth is, and that's a ridiculous accusation today, because I'm no longer in any way a competitor to Net. I think the second thing is that we were never trying to close down stations. I always believed in media pluralism, and it would be absurd for me to want to have one TV station run by the state, as in, so the intention was never to close down the stations. The intention was to reduce as much political involvement in the stations and to respect the constitution. So the last thing I'm going to do is try and be, forcing my hand or any political hand in the station. I have a lot of respect for the work of journalists. They have a lot of respect for themselves, and they fight for impartiality every day. It's difficult.
So nothing
to do
needs
that.
To change if they're so good. There's nothing that
needs to change. The system needs to change, right? Because it's so. Because, for example, Labour Party officials always refuse to go on Net. Net cannot have balance. Now Labour Party officials refuse to be on Net because they don't want the programming to be sort of engaging, right? So Net is in an awkward position in that sense, no matter how much it tries. And let's be honest, if you watch Net and you watch One, I think everybody can see that there is a difference in the style of propaganda. I think Net has a bit more respect for its audience.
So what will change?
Well, hopefully what will change is...
Because time is, as they say,
what
time
will
is of
change
the essence.
What? With the...
What will change with the media? I mean, obviously a strategist
I'm not here.
Depends entirely on, or almost entirely on the communication aspect. So what will change in the media, which is one of the main communication loops?
Yeah, I think one of the things that needs to change is that the party should not be dependent on its media to issue its message, right? It needs to be able to communicate its message widely on social media. It needs to be able to commit to transmit its message on the independent media. Ideally, it's given some time to transmit its message on PBS as well, which tends to be extremely difficult today. So yeah, I think that's my effort. My focus is not to in any way take over the party's
So tell us
media.
what you're going to do. As I said, what are you going to do? What is Christian Peregin going to bring? I mean, the clock is ticking. The money is coming out of the party, whether it's 65,000 over 12 months, over 6 months, whether it's €1,000 a month, whatever. The clock is ticking. What are you going to? What have you been doing, and what changes are we going to see?
So far, what I've been doing is meeting as many people as possible within the party to understand what difficulties there are. Why aren't the numbers moving? Why isn't there a clear vision? Why are some people not working together yet? And
But you could have asked me that, and I would have answered in a couple of minutes. Why? Because the Nationalist Party does not have an overarching issue. It's because the party is in tatters because there's no people who want to be involved. It's because the party doesn't represent anything at the moment, it seems. So there you go. Now, how are we going to solve those issues?
So one of the issues I can solve is that people are going to get involved, right? Myself included. And that was a big problem. You're right. That is, I think, one of the biggest problems, that a lot of people had stopped looking at the Nationalist Party at all, stopped paying attention at all. I think now they're paying a bit more attention, which is good. The other thing is that a lot of good people were not going to the party and were waiting for the party to change instead of to be part of that change. So one of the big things I want to do is, both symbolically through my gesture, but also very actively through my work, is I want to bring a lot more people back to the fold, a lot of bright people who can bring new hope and energy and new vision for the country. I don't think I think you're right that there isn't necessarily an overarching issue, although the government is making that overarching issue more clear every day when it creates this reality where we're now grey listed, where we're now a high risk jurisdiction, where now, even if you're an NGO of a festa, you're having to be under incredible scrutiny in terms of your finances and things like that. And I think that's one issue that we need to resolve quickly, and in fact the priority is to change that. But also we need to be able to create a vision for where the country needs to be in the next 10-20 years.
Okay, you're a strategist, and you're a strategist, as we say in Italian, ħalli nkunu propju użajna l-lingwi kollha di natura. Okay, so you're a strategist, and you know that a strategist needs objectives. And then you are measured, you are it all balances out on those objectives, whether you've achieved them or not. And in fact, Dr. Mari Brigulio, when I asked, what would you like me to ask Chris Peregin? And people are very excited that you're in the scene, because people ask have asked me to ask a lot of questions. And one of them was, how will you define success? So is it by will one of the boxes that you'll be ticking, you are successful if the Nationalist Party wins the election?
Look, I think...
Or is it bringing down the deficit in numbers?
Yeah,
what?
I mean, look, we don't even know when the election is, right? It could be in 3 months' time, could be in 6 months' time. I think the most it could be is in about 9-10 months' time. So I think that will determine a bit some of the expectations. I think my objective is to try and narrow the gap as much as possible, because I think when you have such a wide gap, it's dangerous for democracy. You have a situation where your vote counts for nothing, really. The government is very easily arrogant and bulldozing. If there are 17,000 people objecting to a development, it gets approved. If they want to widen a road for someone, they just chop down all the trees and that's fine. So I want to make it easier for democracy to sort of work normally. That's the first priority. But I also want to build a vision for the next government. I want to help build a vision for the next government. And one thing that the party has done recently is have a radical overhaul of its leadership structures.
Made up of men and more men.
Yeah, I think there is a big lack of women in leadership in the PN. That's something else that I would really like to change and work on. I agree with you there. But also, there's a lot of young, bright minds, and I don't think we should determine someone just based on their gender. I think we have great people like Michael Piccinino, he's 26 and he's a really, really sharp guy. We've got Mark Anthony Sammut, Joe Grech. I think it's Graham Bencini as well. I think there is a really positive, energetic vibe over there. I think there needs to be a massive drive to bring more women and people of all ages and experiences back to the party. And yeah, we need to forge a vision that hopefully, yes, will be the winning vision, because we do need to change the government. Ultimately, we need to change the government as soon as possible to get Malta out of the grey listing and other things that we're facing.
I'll ask you about the grey listing in a moment, because there was a guy here on here, Zamit, who said, which is quite an interesting idea. Thankfully, probably for you, the Nationalist Party didn't think about this, because he thought, why not? He gets the minimum wage, he said, this guy. And then for every vote that you get to the PN, you'll get a bonus. It have been
I would get the minimum wage. I mean, hopefully, that'll probably earn me more.
A grey listing. Bernard Gregg mentioned that the grey listing is he'll sort it out within 3 months. I mean, this is a joke. I mean, people,
it's not a joke. The minute government change, no, it's not. The minute government changes, the FATF's position will start to change, and that's because what the FATF is saying is they don't trust the government. On paper, all of the changes that were demanded have been made. But in reality, the people who have caused all this in the first place are still being protected. And what you need is a government that has an interest. What you need is a government that doesn't have an interest in covering up the past, but has an interest in exposing the past.
But this government has not covered up the past. I mean, the current government, Abela's government, has reacted.
No, I mean, his hands were forced to take certain basic decisions that he took. There are still a lot of other more important decisions that need to be taken. He still hasn't disowned the...
But people have not been taken to court. We've been hearing about Keith Schemri, we've been hearing about Conrad, so we have been hearing about Chris Cardona, we've been hearing about all these, and yet not even one of them has been prosecuted.
Yeah, that's precisely the point, right?
What? The courts are at fault again? The commissioner
there's
of police
protection, there is a sense, the truth is we can only know if there's a change in government, right? It's only if there's a change in government that we can get a sense of whether there are people who are still being protected. So the impression, the PR stance of someone leaving their seat in Parliament when they didn't even want to remain MPs because they wanted to go and build their commercial careers, those things are done, right? But the real action isn't being taken, and we can either say it's not being taken because maybe the police are not taking the action, or we can say, is there something else at play? Are the police's hands being forced the way they were forced for the past 10 years? The impression, I mean, I think the Commissioner, Angelo Gaffar, is a man of great integrity, someone who I respect hugely and who I'm sure is doing his best. But I don't know... But we can only know whether there are people who are being still protected much more than they are if there is a change in government, which is why there needs to be a change in government, which is why we need to rebuild trust, and it's the only way of building trust.
So institutions are not working.
And whoever thinks institutions are working in Malta is blind, right? In the sense that our situation in Malta, when it comes to anything, institutions aren't working, right? When it comes to the construction sector, if your house is about to fall down, and you've got someone digging underneath, and you're freaking out and calling all the authorities are shutting you down.
Okay, opposition, I'm quoting here from the Malta Independent. Opposition leader Simon Bozottil insisted that the PN was always in favour of the gay marriage bill, but had to abstain in the best interest of children because the party and a very strong majority of people are not convinced on the gay adoption issue. On which side of the barricade were you, metaphorically speaking? On the side of the Nationalist Party as they were coming out of Parliament, or on the other side, lynching the opposition verbally, saying that they were denying the gay community from their rights?
I was in St. George's Square celebrating the fact that people like me were given the dignity that we should have been given in terms of civil rights. I wasn't booing anyone because I understand that politics is difficult and people had different priorities, and I saw the tears in the eyes of someone like Claudette Buttigieg, being in that situation. So I don't judge anyone for that experience, but I'm glad to have been on the right side of history, and I'm glad to have been celebrating that.
Thanks to Joseph Muscat.
Thanks to primarily the gay rights lobby that I was a part of, from a time when it was really scary to be, from people like Gabi Kalea, people like Pepe Azzopardi, people who marched the street, people like Cyrus Engere, people who marched the streets in Valletta, and there were times in Slima as well, where it was, where a group of maybe 40, 50 people, and it was really scary to do that. But eventually the lobbying and the activism counted, and it counted at a time when the government had a one-seat majority. And this goes back to what I've been saying, right? When there was a one-seat majority, the voice of the activists and the NGOs counted in a big way, because people like Joseph Muscat were able to respond and see the electoral opportunity in doing that. Today, the voices of NGOs, the voices, for example, of you and Pepe Azzopardi on the prison system are simply ignored, because they can be ignored, because with a majority of 40, 50, 60,000 votes, they simply can be ignored.
Are you pro-choice?
Look, I'm troubled a bit by the situation, by that issue, because I know the situation. I know friends of mine whose partners had abortions against their will, right? Guys whose partners had abortions against their will, and I really understand that situation, and it's one of the reasons that confuses me on this subject. At the same time, I do think it's highly problematic to force a woman to to go through with an entire pregnancy. But I see the point of the rights of the unborn as well. I think whatever the case, I think I'm not
but you're
in
the
any
strategist
situation.
now, Christian. I mean, I can use that language as a commentator, as an opinionist. I can switch, I can move, I can do U-turns. That is allowed because I can do that. Yeah. You are now the strategist of the PN, so you, as a strategist, you have to have the message. Sorry I don't want to sound patronizing, but enough. You have to have the
look,
message. So what is the message?
Look, I'm not here to dictate the party's policy. I am here to listen, discuss, and see what is what would be in the best interest of the country and the party. And there is a hierarchy of needs, right? So at the moment, the priority is to narrow the gap and to create a stronger opposition. I think Bernard Grech, the first thing he said when Marlene Farrugia proposed the decriminalization of abortion is that we should have a discussion within the party. And what's interesting is that there was a big internal reaction, clear, even external reaction, to even the suggestion of a discussion, whereas in Labour, when basically the same thing was said, it was just taken as, okay, that's fine. I think the party needs to be a bit more strategic with its approach to communications, even as I'm saying
helping
the wider
us swallow
party.
the pill in a different way.
Pardon?
Helping us swallow the pill.
No.
But they will stay with their position.
No, being more strategic with our internal discussions. So if we see that there is a need to address a law written 150 years ago, and we've got all these lawyers in the party, surely there is some value we can add to the legislative process. Surely there's something that changed in these 150 years that makes us say, listen, let's see where we can add value to the law. Let's see who needs protection. Let's see how to best protect them. Okay. But I think the strategy needs to be, let's discuss that internally, let's come up with a position, and then let's all unite behind that position.
But you've been discussing, before your time.
I mean, I haven't even started full time.
Before your time. You have been discussing, as a party, you have been discussing, for example, the issue of
people have been discussing abortion for decades.
But cannabis, you haven't taken a position. The party hasn't taken a position. Why? I mean, this is an issue that I have said what my position is. This is an issue that people need to have an understanding what the party represents.
Look, I don't think the Labour Party sets the deadline for when the Nationalist Party should have a position on cannabis.
I'm not the Labour Party, I'm just asking.
No, I know, but the discussion was triggered by the Labour Party's white paper, right? And you're asking because the Labour Party did the white paper.
It's the government who did the white paper.
Fair enough. So did Labour Party actually, because then they did their own consultation session. But the government did the white paper, and you're asking, why is the PN not having its position public yet? The PN is discussing its position, and hopefully now there's another person in that discussion, someone who is. Has a lot of opinions on this subject as well.
Are you comfortable with a leader of the opposition who hadn't paid his taxes?
I think that we need to see that in a context, right? So Bernard Grech
I need to be fair here. I like Bernard Grech, and I think he has some very interesting issues. But the moment that I knew that there were question marks, it was very obvious that he would be this would haunt him for as long as.
Look, I think if we're fair, a lot of people, many people, have disputes with the tax department. The truth is that when you start speaking with the Nationalist Party, you fall under a ridiculous amount of scrutiny by the government that is quite vindictive with these things, and these disputes that he was having with the tax department were made public. He has paid all of the dues, and he doesn't have any more disputes, and I think that a person shouldn't be judged by an administrative issue alone.
Honourable Rosian Cotayar had her colleague pay whatever he had to pay or carry the responsibilities. So with that argument, then she should.
No, she was doing business with a corrupt businessman. Let's be honest. As in, that wasn't a tax issue. There was a tax exacerbation to that issue, an aggravation to that issue. But she knew that this person was a corrupt businessman, and she was doing property dealings with him and taking bagloads of cash from a restaurant. So I think to equate those two issues is part of the problem that we've got in Malta, right? That we seem to keep equating one wrongdoing with another when they're not equal, and we need to be able to say that they're not equal. And it's not about throwing Rosian Cotayar under the bus. It's about looking at it in an objective way and understanding that there was a bigger issue than someone someone who wasn't even an MP, wasn't even in politics, had a dispute with the tax commissioner on how much tax they owe, which is again a relatively normal thing. I know you don't have, I don't have either, but a lot of people have had, and it's an administrative issue and should be dealt as such. Today, it's no longer going to be dealt with as an administrative issue for everyone, right? So today we have international institutions breathing down our necks to start being much more aggressive when it comes to tax issues, to the point that now a tax issue becomes money laundering, which from being dealt with by the tax commissioner without any issues of crime or whatever, now people can be facing many years in prison, which is part of the danger and part of the problem that Labour has created in Malta to protect a few people who we all know who they are.
Another question that I got from Joseph Bonello this time around, amongst other things, he asked about, well, the way I understood it at least, he asked about the quality of your MPs and of the candidates that will be put forward on the PN's list. Are you happy with the list? Are you happy with the people? I mean, very few new faces. People are struggling to feel that they can be part of the Nationalist Party.
To be honest, I've had a lot of conversations with MPs and candidates in the past couple of weeks, and I'm quite pleasantly surprised and impressed. I think there are some MPs who are doing a really good job, who I, even as a journalist, hadn't really paid attention to before. So I don't want to mention any names because I'm in one of those positions where as soon as I mention a name, it's going to seem like I'm preferring someone over another, and I need to be quite disciplined with that. But I'll be honest, I think that
I like Ryan Callus, I like Claudette's work, I like the work that okay, I'm not Therese Comodino Kagir. So there are a couple of people that I...
And there's a lot of new candidates as well, who haven't yet been given the exposure that they should have been given, even by the independent media, and more importantly, by the state media. There was a time when candidates would get exposure on a program like Sharabank. Unfortunately, today that's been removed from the schedule, and okay. You only get... CEOs and chairmen of public authorities appearing on TV today. Okay.
Speaking about candidates, are you going to try and harness Jason Azzopardi's energy and the information that he seems to have? So is he a renegade? Is he somebody that you'd like to bring him back to the mainstream sort of party strategy? Is that the plan?
Look, I want to make the best use of everyone, right? Everyone has different qualities, everyone has different...
But Jason goes his way.
Jason is one of the most energetic MPs that the Nationalist Party has, and he's also one of the most informed on one of the biggest issues that the country is facing, right? So it's difficult to... It's difficult to catch up with him because he's the sort of person who runs, and because he's so dedicated and so passionate about the cause, and I look forward to working with him. And I think, like everyone else on the team, he's an asset, not a liability, and we should be making the best use of all of our resources.
Speaking about candidates, we've had the most recent boo-boo, this time from Kevin Kotayar, the MP. Dr. Kevin Kotayar, the MP in Gozo, where he says that he refers about the dangers of multiculturalism and all the other crap he talked about. Absolute rubbish, absolute shit. I mean, the ideas that he presented there were verging on racism, verging on xenophobia, and we heard nothing from the PN condemning him. All he did was put up a second post, which all it did was dig even deeper. Now we know that the discourse, what is being said by politicians, and we've had Adrian Delia telling us that it's all the fault of the foreigners that are leaving, that our economy is imploding. We've had Bernard Gregg saying that choosing to fill Malta up with foreigners without studying their impact on the salaries of Maltese workers. Then we've had other we've had Silvio Schember from the other end telling people to go back, calling people international. At tamlu froġa. Both parties, it is a complete pudding. Pudding at instamaħjar, pudding. So, should Kevin Kotayar be sanctioned? U xaħat jgħid, isma' Kevin Kotayar, mhux tikteb oħra, għajt sorry u jaf.
So I called Kevin Kotayar that evening, and I had a really long chat with him. He was a very nice guy, by the way. And
that's just beyond the point of being.
Yes,
I think
I'm
everybody's
just giving
nice.
you some context. So he, has been writing and speaking in Parliament about the impact in Gozo, a very sheltered place which has had a big influx of foreign workers. Especially in the construction sector, but also in hospitality and other sectors. So he has experienced this and has been talking about it for a long time. Every time he's spoken about it in some depth, it's been ignored. The time he put up a 30-word Facebook post, it went viral. It went viral
but
because
somebody
it
who
was...
should be talking about inclusion
and
minorities.
Yes. And it's interesting that
U dan melux għamel kawza, tinsiex Chris.
Yes.
Dan he għamel kawza minħabba hate speech. So he should know better.
Yeah, the post went viral and was wrong because it sounded like he was victim blaming, right? He was blaming the victim of a horrendous mob attack on an individual. And I asked him this question. I said, sort of, as someone who is blind, as someone who knows what social exclusion is and victim blaming is, didn't you understand the problem over there, And he said, sometimes when you are yourself so close to a subject, you have more confidence confidenza, you're a bit less sensitive to it, and I kind of got that argument. He has apologized for giving the impression of victim blaming. I think he was right to do that, and I don't think that the party should be policing him or telling him not to speak again or anything like that. I think we should also listen to the concerns that people like him are raising about the changing realities in Malta, which which are concerns of constituents, and I think we shouldn't be ignoring them. We should look at, how are we going to solve these very difficult issues of holistic integration programs and trying to actually make this work. Because
we need to be quick.
Go for it.
Because we have very little time left. Quotas and women and people and women in parliament. Are you happy with that?
I think women are a massively important element of any organization and should be. I think organizations that have more women in them do better, and they do better because they add more perspectives. I've experienced this myself in organizations I've been a part of, and I'm a firm believer that we need more women. And I'm going to be working. I'm certainly going to be championing that internally.
Okay. Are you happy with having Adrian Delia around?
Yes, I think he's also an asset for the party. I'm glad that he's still being loyal to the party and really fulfilling his role as an MP very, very well.
I mean, he should have given half a million donation from someone on Batlin Dunajna.
Yeah,
I mean that.
but this guy
people
is
shooting
someone
from the hip. That one of their
yes. There is an element of disorganization and something that I really want to help fix. But let's be clear. This guy was someone who was the leader of the party. Had a very traumatic experience in being replaced as the leader of the party, and instead of leaving and being a baby about it, he looks fine and dandy, and he's actually performing really well as MP. And it's lovely to see someone contributing in the way that they need to be contributing for the party. And I hope other people, do what I hope everyone in the party uses themselves for the best in the best way for the party.
Okay, you, Xavier Balzan and Ian Borch. Actually, you were called the clown of, well, you weren't called the clown really, but the title of the article was of clowns, and you were the main team in this round. What's wrong between you and Xavier?
Well, I don't know. I have a lot of respect for Xavier. We've worked together in the past, and I consider us friends. I called him the day before I made the announcement to let him know that I'm doing this, and he seemed to encourage me. He was very nice about it.
Doesn't
I don't no the article
the
article surprised me a bit, but that's Xavier as well. I don't mind the criticism. I think it's good to also kind of reduce the expectations a bit, and I.
Did you go to lunch or dinner with Ian Borch?
Yeah, of course I did go to lunch with Ian Borch as a journalist, and lots of other politicians, and Xavier. What's interesting is that Xavier was there to meet a politician himself, so I don't know what the point was. I've got a feeling he actually went there to meet Ian Borch himself, so after mine, so he was a bit early, but maybe I'm wrong. But I don't know. I don't see if there's a problem in meeting someone and having a chat. Good night.
What will be the overarching theme that will bring the different factions of the Nationalist Party together? So what is, because that is the secret of Edifin Kadami, of Joseph Muscat, a bit of Lawrence Gonzi, that they managed to bring all these factions together. What will be this overarching theme, which I find very difficult to find
I think the party needs ambition and hope, and so does the country. And I think once you have ambition and hope in that, so once you can create an ambitious vision and you hope and you know that you can achieve it, then it gets very exciting. You find common ground and you unite. That's what I hope to try and with many other people create, you know. And yeah, with the new people who have been given the roles, even with a lot of the older guys who have been there, like Francis Amid-Demek and Censo Guy, who have been there when the party was at its finest, you know.
So that's what time allowed us to delve into, but it was a pleasure.
Thank you, Andrew.
I'm very proud of my English. Taħseb, għax inti minn ta' San Antonio hekk.
Mhux ħażin, da.
Mhux ħażin. Rajt saħti ili nipprattika. Grazie.
I appreciate us being able to speak the various official languages of Malta.
That's another issue that we might have to debate, and probably it's an issue that you'll be debating in the party as well. So anyway, thank you very much, Christian, strategist of the Nationalist Party. This was Newsbook Q&A.